What's up, everybody? My name's Mike Sjogren, here with my co-host,
Emmanuel Pani.
We're part of a group of specialized real estate investors you've probably never heard of.
We didn't start with deep pockets or wealthy families, and we don't rely on 401ks, mutual funds, or traditional real estate investing.
In fact, many of us don't even own the properties that fund our freedom. If you ask the money experts out there, they'd say what we do is impossible, yet it's happening every single day.
It's happening through a new niche called short-term rentals.
We are Short-Term Rental Nation, and these are our secrets. What's going on, STR Nation? Welcome back to another episode of the Short-Term Rental Secrets podcast. I'm your host, Mike Sjogren, here as always with my brother from another mother, Mr. Emmanuel Pani, coming all the way in from Portugal now?
Where the hell are you this time? We just got to Lisbon yesterday, so Tasha has a home base here. She's kind of from here. She grew up between here and Angola. So it's been good. Actually, I'm super grateful because this has been the best Wi-Fi I've had this entire holiday. So actually, this show hopefully is the best quality. My mic did unplug midway through the show, so I do apologize. I love you guys, and I'm trying my best to provide quality content in terms of mic, but it has been a struggle, so I do acknowledge that. But man, life is good. I just came back from Sardinia. I was there for a couple of days, and it was just 2 uninterrupted days with family. And Tasha and her mom hung out back in Rome, so it was just me. And I just spent my days between my aunt's house, my other aunt's house, my grandparents' house. And dude, I shared this with the boardroom. I'm like, it's not an STR thing, but I'm like, I share a picture of me and my grandpa, and I'm like, was a Monday. I was there all day, and I didn't look at nothing. I didn't check anything. I didn't respond to anybody about anything. And I just sat next to my grandpa, held his hand, had conversations, and I'm like,
to me, man, that's what it's always been about.
This is the sauce, you know what I mean? And it has that kind of duality of makes you appreciate so much life, and it lights this fucking fire under my ass. I apologize for that bomb, but it just does. Because I'm like, I haven't been home in a year and a half, almost 2 years, and I'm grateful that we took such a long holiday, but I'm like, I need to go back, and I need because I want to create an even larger business so that I can be here more often. Because I don't know how much longer they have. 2 of my grandparents are 95, and you're starting to see it, right? You're starting to see, you have to hold them up and everything else, and then just again, it's not for the fact of trying to catch up more of their life, but it's just for the rest of the family that is there. How can I be there more to enjoy it? Because my soul feels good when I'm there, right? So I don't know. It's interesting. It's really important in a sense, you know?
Yeah, man. So things are going well. By the time this airs, we should be pretty close to opening the hotel. We just committed to an open date of October 14th, which is really aggressive for where we are right now. So the next couple weeks of my life are going to be dedicated to getting that baby open, but it's coming along really nice. Actually flew up some of my crew from Orlando to help get it over the line. And they've just been crushing it. So took them out to dinner last night, had a good time, and just getting after it, man. So
yeah. Before we start the show, talking about crew and why I think the reason, your crew in Orlando, it's so good at what they do, right? That they're now coming to help you with your next thing. And I just finished reading this book called Unreasonable Hospitality. And I have been talking about it, and I actually told our boardroom group, I'm like, I want you all guys to read this. Not even it's not a suggestion, right? And I hope they understood that, because I'm like, it needs to be in the back of your mind in terms of understanding hospitality. And for the people like us that play in the boutique space, it is what's going to make the difference for you. So go grab a copy. We don't get nothing from it. It just honestly has been one of the best books I've read all year. And it really super fired me up in terms of I don't know, it just made me feel heard in terms of the way of how I always felt about hospitality and the gift that we have in doing what it is that we do in terms of making people's life kind of special, right? Because if you think about it, people come to our homes for all kinds of events in their life. You might have in a year, you might have a guest coming for a wedding, a funeral, an anniversary, a proposal, a friend reunion, a family reunion. And the one thing that all these guests, all these experiences have in common is your home and your hospitality. So it's your duty to do it to the best of your ability and to like sparkle your little bit of magic into their life.
Yeah, 100%, man. 100%. And the episode today that we just recorded that you guys are about to hear was phenomenal with Luke Carl from the Short Term Shop. We've had his wife, Avery Carl, on the podcast before. She spoke at WealthCon last year. And just an amazing couple, just great people, good energy, just, you know, doing really big things, but always doing everything with integrity and, you know, keeping family in mind for everything. It's just great people. And I love how, you know, one of our core values is keep it simple, right? And when we were kind of drilling Luke on, you know, the nuts and bolts of the business, and he's like, just keep it simple. You don't need 50 different softwares to do this. Like, it's not that crazy. You know, don't overthink it. Get the right property, get the right design, and then keep it simple. Like it's that's really the key, because you can get bogged down in all the tech and everything else. But I think you guys are really going to enjoy this episode, and we're really pumped to share it with you guys. So without further ado, Mr. Luke Carl. All right. On today's show, we have the one and only Luke Carl with us today. Super pumped to have you here, Luke. We've spoken to your lovely wife numerous times at this point, gotten to hang out with her, but we finally got you on here, and really excited to have you, man.
Oh, it's absolutely my pleasure. I'm a big fan, and I'm very grateful to be here.
Awesome, man. Well, we're glad to have you. So let's start from the beginning, right? We've heard it from Avery's side of the house, but you know, what was your background and how did you guys get into the whole real estate game? And then we'll kind of get us up to speed on what you guys got going on now.
Yeah. And for those that don't know, Avery Carl is my wife, my lovely wife. And she's, you know, obviously pretty big in the real estate sales side of things, agent. And of course, the Short Term Shop is our company. But, you know, back in the day, her story, I actually do tell the story a little different than she does. Even though we were both there. And for me, the way I got into real estate was simply, we met in the big city. We were both small town people. We grew up in small towns and fairly well traveled at, you know, young age. And we both ended up in New York City, and that's where we met. And she's from the South and wanted to live a little closer to family. So we ended up in Tennessee. And then, so basically it was as simple as that. We went from a place where it was like, you know, $3 million for 500 square foot condo or a town, a co-op or whatever, to a place where you could actually buy a house. And it just kind of happened, you know? And so we started shopping and bought our first house. And I think it was 2012. And that was, we lived in it for a while. It was what you would call today, probably what you would call a live-in flip, I suppose. We didn't know that at the time, but, you know, we bought this house, and then the next thing you know, everything started falling apart. So we had to start fixing it. And that house, we did every trick in the book. We rehabbed it, you know, top to bottom, windows, septic, HVAC, all that kind of stuff, floors. And then eventually we moved out and put a tenant in there. And then eventually we ended up selling it a few years later with the 2 out of last 5-year rule thing. What else? I sold it to the tenant that was living in it. So that story was kind of it was a launch pad. I mean, actually, if you want to know the truth, hold on. This story is worth telling. Let me back up to the New York thing. When I was living in the city, you know, young age, I moved into it was a Craigslist apartment. I don't think I've ever told this story really, other than just to personal friends. And it's, I think it's been long enough. I can't get in trouble. But my very first landlording experience was I moved into this apartment. The girl that was my roommate, she was moving out, and she said, you know, why don't we talk to the landlord about you taking this place over? And so when that happened, I found out how much the rent actually was versus what she was charging me. And that's when it was like, whoa, holy crap, you know? I think the rent was like $1,100 and I was paying $850. And we both had the same exact room, like on the other ends of the apartment. So I took the lease. I built the wall. She was living in the living room with a curtain. I built a wall, which was not legal, I would imagine. And I started renting that room out for, I was paying like $400 a month in New York City. And that was like my first landlording experience. So we moved to Tennessee where we could finally buy a house, and we started saving our pennies and working our rear ends off. And next thing you know, we were kind of face first into a rental real estate after that.
Wow.
So you got arbitrage kind of technically without knowing.
Yeah, I kind of did.
To not call it something else, I mean, let's say you got arbitrage.
Yeah.
By this girl, and then kind of like switch on the lights. You know what's funny? My little brother also rented a place and built himself a wall to separate it from his roommate at the time. So it's very funny. Yeah. So you guys started with that. So what was the first property you bought? And was it short-term rentals from the get-go? Did you guys get started doing long-terms?
Yeah. So we when we bought that first house to live in, we were hooked, instantly hooked. And yeah, Avery, very early on when I first met her, I remember vividly, we were sitting on my couch and she said, I think I want to get my real estate license. And I was like, what the hell does that? I didn't even know what that meant, and some years went by and next thing you know, we bought that house to live in and we got hooked. She took to real estate at an early age and it rubbed off on me. And, so we got hooked on that buying process, and I think we both knew, I think that's where it kind of clicked for her. Okay, maybe this real estate license thing is for me. Maybe I could be an agent. And then I actually gravitated towards, I actually, believe it or not, went to home inspector school. I was like, I was obsessed with the process and I didn't know where my path was going to be, but I liked that dude who inspected our house. So I went to home inspector school, believe it or not, and it never went anywhere. I knew it wasn't something I wanted to pursue, and I already had a decent day job, but so that was it. We were hooked. And then, so we just said, you know what, let's get another house and rent it out. And this was before we ever heard of course, Rich Dad, which I always have a copy nearby me, or Bigger Pockets or any content whatsoever. And there really wasn't much back then anyway. So we just did the old fashioned 20% down thing on a long-term rental outside of Nashville. And again, we were hooked. But the problem there is that the house we bought, like Nashville at the time, it was fairly affordable. But then the next thing you know, you blinked your eye and it was like, it skyrocketed. It was like Austin. Everybody knows, if you know anything about the South, Nashville just went insane. So we couldn't duplicate that process. We went very well. Our first long-term rental went very, very well. Numbers were great. I rehabbed it myself, scraped the ceilings, put the carpet and all that, and so then Avery was like, hey, why don't we just go to the mountains? They're right down the road. And they have cabins there that we could rent out. So for me, it was as simple as that. I was just looking for another rental property. Really had nothing to do with the fact that it was just like, okay, instead of renting it on Zillow, I'm going to rent it on Airbnb, which at the time was fairly unheard of. And that was pretty much as simple as that. We went to the mountains, bought one or two, had some good success, and it went from there.
So were you guys still living in that first house when you bought the second rental, or did you kind of rent out that whole house and then move into the new one to like live and flip again?
No, we bought the second one with the regular old investment loan. And we actually lived in that first one for 5 or 6 years, I think.
Okay. Once you got into the short-term rentals, was it like a light bulb moment? Like, was your cash flow substantially higher from those, or was it still kind of early days where, before it really blew up?
I would say it was somewhere in the middle. It was definitely attracting other people, and friends of ours were trying to get involved with us and things like that. And of course, we ran out of money. We as that happens when you buy real estate, it's expensive, So we bought. I come from a very, normal, my dad was a mailman and he's a great dude, but there, I didn't really have any of this kind of stuff around when I was a kid, with wealth building and things like that. So we just bootstrapped it and put ourselves on a budget and lived on next to nothing for a long time, and threw all of our pennies at the fire, and bought a cabin in the Smokies that went really well. And still to this day, we still own that one. It's the longest running Airbnb in the Smokies. Because, back then it was like Verbo and Airbnb was like this new kind of, they really didn't get started until like 2011 ish.
Mhm.
And this would have been about 2015, somewhere in there. But anyway, so we bought one, and again, hooked, still like obsessed. So we just kept saving our pennies, and we started selling stuff and throwing our money on the fire. We ended up with 3. And then I found a buddy to partner with. He actually already had short terms. I had no idea. I'd known him for years. We were at a bar one night on the way to a rock and roll show, which is how I knew him, from the rock and roll world. And we started talking about deadbolts. And I'm like, how the hell do you know about that deadbolt? What are you talking about? And he's like, I've got some vacation rentals in Florida. And I'm like, what? And again, this was like 2015, and it wasn't really that common at the time. And he was self-managing them from Ohio. And he didn't know anything about Airbnb. He was Verbo only. And so we ended up partnering together on 2 cabins, and then it just kind of grew and grew from there. That was the two. We didn't continue that relationship, the partnership. I kind of shut it down at that point. Honestly, I didn't think I could handle anymore, because back then there was no management softwares, and I was doing everything manually with a day job. And so I was at my max, I felt, at that point.
And that's what, like 5 or 6 properties, like totally manual.
Yep. 5 short terms and a long term, which I was managing that one myself as well. So then we started getting back into long terms after those first 5.
Got you.
And then what brought you back? Because I can so see you just sitting at a bar drinking, and it's like deadbolts, and you're like, back in the day, you were probably like, what band is that? Like, I haven't heard of it. And like now you guys grew up, and you're like, fuck deadbolts. Like, you changed them yourself, like,
Yeah.
But so you guys did that. You kind of felt a little bit, and then all of this huge wave of technology came in. And it's so funny because I remember me running the Villa, so this Excel spreadsheet, taking people's credit card, and like the sticky notes, and putting that into my agenda, and like charging people manually, right? So it was definitely a full-time job. So you switched back to the long terms. Did you guys still do like the single family long term, or did you guys switch to like buying larger multifamily assets, or what was that little piece of your journey like?
Eventually we did. Of course, it takes money, so it was a lot of patience involved. And I've heard your stories, about the spreadsheets and et cetera. And I'm like, I know exactly what he's talking about, But yeah, so we switched back to long terms at that time. And of course, we're talking, pretty long periods of time in the middle there, because it takes a long time to save up down payments. And so we ended up buying, and we moved to Chattanooga, which is again still in Tennessee, just another section of the state, and they have a lot of duplexes there. So we were buying those for quite a while, and I was self-managing those too. And I'm very grateful for that time in my career to have self-managed those long-term rentals. I've always considered myself more of a long-term guy for sure, and the short-term thing was. I would say definitely Avery, and still is. And I do love it. And I'm her property manager, for lack of a better way to put it, But to me, it's all just rental real estate. And she just, man, I mean, she's an amazing person for one thing, but she did grow up going on the road. Her dad was a pro golfer, which, Mike, I think you know that because you're a big golfer, I know. And so she grew up in a motorhome on the road as a young child. And so she's got it in her blood just to go. And but anyway, yeah, so we started buying duplexes in Chattanooga. And, time goes by and years go by. And the next thing you know, you just stack one up here and there and stack another one. And the next thing you know, you got a pretty decent portfolio. And we did eventually get into apartments. That did, took a while. I think we bought our first apartment maybe 3.5 years ago now. And now we've got several of them. And I like that a lot. I do. It's a completely different animal, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's almost the exact same in a lot of ways. It's just rental real estate, but yeah.
On the apartments, just out of curiosity, and then I want to like take that step back and look at holistically all the stuff you guys got going on. Are you more like the GP on that? Are you guys investing like passively in syndications, or what does that look like for you guys?
So we just own them outright, basically. No partners. I'm in one syndication. I don't know that that's necessarily for me. I would do it again, I think, but I would prefer to own the asset. And again, the syndications have a wonderful upside, and you don't have to do anything, which is great. And if you know somebody that knows what they're doing, it's a no-brainer. If you got extra dough laying around, absolutely do that. And Mike, if next time you raise money for a hotel, I'm in, because I know that there's a big future there for you, and I look forward to seeing where that evolves. But our apartment buildings are fairly small, modest. Actually, the one of them we bought, that very first house outside of Nashville, we 1031 exchanged into. And now I don't want this to come across as some like podcast headline, because you guys know what reality is. But we did 1031 that first rental property into a 26 unit apartment building with, of course, and this is what I was getting at, with extra cash. And it was a dump, a dump. We've owned it for 2.5 years now. And it's getting a new roof right now. Still just endless amounts of work. And it's got 4 buildings, and one of them, it was an 8 unit, 8 of the 26 was completely empty because you couldn't live in it at the time. The roof was leaking so bad. And you hear all these crazy real estate stories about, I bought one house and turned it into 26 units. And yeah, I did that, but man, it's not like that in real life. You're killing yourself. And I love that part of it. I like to work hard. I was raised to work hard. I have no idea what the actual question was at this point, but
no, that's great. I was more curious of like, are you more on the active investing side, like
yes,
running deals, or like the syndication passive side? So that's good for context too, for everybody.
I feel like Avery and Luke could not be just on the passive side. They would just be looking at each other being like, what are we doing? Like, do you got something to do? Because like you guys also still, and now I understand the RV parts of thing a little bit more, right? You guys travel the country with your RV, because I see you guys every summer, right? You take this crazy trip with the kids and everything else. And I'm like, my idea of like, and I make this joke all the time, people are like, what's your favorite kind of camping? I'm like, it's a 5-star resort on the beach. That's my style of camping, right? So it's just like, it makes a lot more sense. So I don't know if Mike was going somewhere, but like, so now you guys have all of these things going on. You still have the family. So where do you guys spend? So where do you spend most of your time? Like, how would you say your time goes?
I would say that I'm full-time with the short-term shop, helping out with the business. It's a big company at this point. And I pretty much, I had a wonderful day job that I was madly in love with. I was full-time on the radio, in rock and roll radio. And I gave that up full-time around 90 doors. I had to the point where I just couldn't do it anymore. And I hated to see it go because it wasn't my dream job. And also you see all these people, I bought 4 houses and quit my job. And Mike, that's not realistic, but it can be done. I did it and I didn't want to, but I still do that on the weekends, by the way, just for fun. But at that point, the shop got to be so big that she needed all the help she could get. And, I wanted to be there to help her. And I've always helped. I teach classes, clients come through, they want to learn how to be a landlord, basically. And that's what I do there. And just some behind the scenes stuff with the shop. So I'd say that's my day job these days. But, and then of course the real estate, it's passive is not a real word. I've got a few hundred units and life is wonderful, but it is a lot of work. And I would say my biggest gig there is relationships with multiple, different types of personalities. Yes. Constant, this guy's over here drunk doing that when he's supposed to be working on the tile, and this guy didn't show up, and this plumber did that, and that's the bulk of my real estate owned side of the business. I do all of that stuff. I have property managers on the long terms, but that doesn't mean much because if you don't manage them, then things don't go the way you want them to.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was getting at was how do you guys divide and conquer now? Because short-term shop is massive, right? You guys have done a phenomenal job. How many markets you guys in now? It's a lot.
Thank you. Yes, so we're in 20 now. It's been absolutely insane. I'm so grateful. It's completely changed our lives, and we've always been extremely hardworking people. Avery is also, she's not human. You got to understand, she's not a regular human.
I thought she was kidding. When we were hanging out in Nashville, she's like, I got to go to bed. It was like 7:00. And I thought she was kidding. She's like, no, I get up at like 3. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
She's like, no,
well, and also,
okay.
Mike, she doesn't go to bed. She plugs herself in at night. She's not,
I figured.
I'm telling you.
I figured.
She's superhuman, and I'm very proud of her. She's just an amazing person. And I also have an incredible work ethic. But thank you. Yeah, the shop is it's a big machine. And at the end of the day, though, we do take pride in it being just our family. That's really what it is. And of course, our agents, who we love each and every one of them, and we curated the whole process from the beginning years ago. And it's a big undertaking there, and it's a nice mix of trying to keep that family vibe while also keeping our integrity in multiple different states.
Yeah, I would love to actually. Oops. Are you going to talk about that?
Dibs first. No, you can talk about that, but I want to ask a question first. So
yeah,
because you guys deal with so many different new and seasoned investors, I'd love to hear your take on, what would some advice be for somebody that might be getting into their first deal that maybe they're not aware of, right? It's like you don't know what you don't know at the beginning, and where you guys see so many people and you're helping them on the management side of like, okay, cool, we can help you get this deal, but then you got to like run it on the back end. What do you think are some of the big mistakes or the blind spots that some newer folks might be missing at the beginning?
I think they they get in their own way. I think that at this point, there's so much content, not only just the content, but softwares and so many things to completely overwhelm yourself. And I'm fairly grateful that didn't exist when we first started. It was very simple back then, as you guys know, because you guys were early adopters. And it was, I was running from Airbnb to my Verbo. I had my laptop out. The apps were terrible, and Verbo's app still is terrible. And you had to run from Airbnb to Verbo and block it off. You couldn't even sync calendars, So I come from a completely different perspective. And I honestly, I don't know what it would be like if I were to start this whole journey today. I don't think it would be something I'm kind of glad I cut my teeth back when it was more difficult. But to answer your question, I think that people are getting in. I'm defending them by my first statement because I don't know how I would handle it today, but I think they get in their own way. There's just so much to trip people up, and they drive themselves a little bit too nuts when really at the end of the day, all it is a damn house. Just buy it, rent it, and learn from your mistakes. It's best advice I can give, I guess.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Yeah, keep it simple, stupid, right?
Yeah,
and I think 100%. Also like there is this thing about overcomplicating things, and I think people don't understand that like just do less but do it well, and then once you're doing whatever less to the best of its ability, then you add on, and then if that's not doing well for you, then go back to doing less, because I'd rather you do less but well than do lots not well, because then your business will suffer, right? And all these softwares, and again, I think that's one of the biggest questions we see, or I see in all these communities, is like, what is the best property management software out there? Bro, it's whatever floats your boat, whatever color scheme you like, whatever thing you like, whatever syncs with your shit. And like I used to do this thing with like nothing, and it does run a lot better. Our VAs couldn't do what they do with me running everything on an Excel spreadsheet, right? But like, again, at the same time, I do miss some aspects of it. And for me, what's funny also is like, I miss the people a lot of the times. So when I do get to meet our guests, I'm like, I miss it because I love this hospitality aspect of it. My question was going to be, it's going back to what you were talking about earlier, is finding that balance of working with your spouse and being life partners while being business partners. And like, how did you guys do it? And like, I assume like, just, I know me and Tasha have our moments that you're just like, holy shit. I'm like, I'm going to go for a walk. And I think you should go for a walk too. And we should just walk for a while, because I'm like, well, this is not like, this is not working out at all. And and it's hard. And I'll share my perspective on it. It's so hard to switch it off, right? Like if you had an intense day, you're having dinner and they'll do like the smallest thing, and you just are like so in the day still. They're like, why are you counting that like that? And it's such a like small, stupid thing that just gets blown out of proportion. And it's hard. And sometimes I'm like, bro, like we're doing all of this to enjoy this a little bit more, right? Without having to worry about it. So what has that journey been like for you? And how is it supporting a super driven woman? Because that can be easy, right?
I would like to give you a hug right now. Great job. Bravo. Yeah, it's not easy. It's not. My best piece of advice there, not that just anybody's going to end up finding themselves in a situation like this, but is stay the hell out of her lane. Anybody that's married, it's really the same thing, and we've been married for 10 years now, and she's just amazing, and I love her more than ever. And but she's powerful. She is a driving force, but she's also very sweet. She's Southern. And I'm a little more on the Yankee side, so we do have that difference as well. But I just stay out of her lane. I guess it's gotten a lot better as far as happiness level is concerned over the years, because we are both extremely driven people that were out there looking for something that we didn't have before. And I feel that we're getting closer every day to reaching whatever that goal is of just happiness and spirituality. So that's really awesome. There's a big identity situation going on there. And I finally have reached heights that I knew I was worthy of. Let me put it in perspective. Used to be when I was young and broke, I'd go to a dinner with friends or whatever, and I would be like kind of down on myself that I couldn't pick up the bill, or I bartended for a really long time, and I like to tip really big because of that. By the way, man, people in the service industry are always the best short-term hosts. It's very similar, but I've over time been able to turn myself into the guy that I wanted to be. And so that, and she sees that too. And I see it in her. And so the respect just grows and grows and grows. But there are times where you got to go on those long walks, man. Yeah.
No, I love that. So I've, this book that I talked at the intro of the show, it's called Unreasonable Hospitality. And I've been completely in love with this book. I picked it up less than a week ago, and I've just been eating through it. And there is really that, going back to what you said just now about like people that work in the hospitality, especially in like restaurants and like bars, right? There's this over pride in doing hospitality, but there's also this other side of hospitality where there is kind of like a looking down on. And like, it comes to a point that like, if you're able to like harness that, and I remember myself when I started as a maintenance guy, I did have this kind of back of the head conversation that was like, why am I vacuuming shit that is overflowing from this toilet? I have a college degree. I should be doing other things, yada, yada. But once you start falling in love with like taking care of people, and you sharpen your antennas in terms of like what you're creating, you are one of the greatest hospitality people out there, especially like being a bartender. Like you get to like pick up the vibe of the person that's coming to you and be like, did this guy or this girl have a shitty day? Do they need a hug? Do they need like physically you can probably hug people just off the bat, but you're like, how do I do that? Right. And it's not those skills that you sharpen. And I'm so happy that you get to now be that guy that is just not only, has created so much success, but now you're like, dude, I can tip super fat the way that I would have loved to be tipped by this guy or this girl that like has a talent, right? Because I'm assuming you're not tipping people that are giving you shitty service, but you're tipping people that are like, you give me great service, and you're such a like walking example of like, I was you, and I harnessed this little je ne sais quoi that you have, right? This like little sauce that you have, and I see you, right? And I think that is so special because I know you make their day, right? Because you remember when somebody gave you like $100 tip. I remember when like the New Yorkers would come down to Florida, and after the whole week staying with us, they were like, "This was the greatest service you have. Like, give me $100." That felt more than my weekly salary, and it was less. But just the being seen by somebody and being like acknowledged above and beyond for what you have done, there's no greater feeling, right? I still love getting tips now. When people tip me now, I'm like, you really shouldn't tip me because
not only that,
I run
but
this place,
I learned a lot about people by doing. I owned a bar in Manhattan actually at the age of 25, and that sounds impressive, and it wasn't. It was a 550 square foot dump, and it smelled bad, and we had cheap beer and loud rock and roll. And my boss, she owned 5 bars in the same neighborhood, and she was getting ready to open this place, and she said, "I want you to run it, and I'm going to give you 25%." And I'm like, "Hell yeah!" I was 25 years old, and it was an amazing time. But man, I learned so much about people and judging character, and I did it for too long. If I had to go back, I would have not done it for so long. But very invaluable, and I'm glad you brought up that book, Unreasonable Hospitality. I'm the same thing. I read that about 2 months ago, and I've been riding high on that. Will Gardera, 11 Madison Park, and fantastic, absolutely fantastic. Just some really great stuff in there. I mean, I was writing quotes down from that book.
Dude, I took the highlighter. Like, I'm on an Italian beach drinking like a white wine on this little bed with a highlighter, just highlighting things at the beach. And my wife is like, "Why are you so embarrassing? Like, why do you have a highlighter with you at the beach?" Because I'm like, it's so good. And like, I love those success stories. And literally one day, like when you go through the book, you'll see them grow and succeed. And like, I'm like, that is what fires me up, right? It's like the bigger than life vision that you give to your team, and the understanding that like, if you have that vision, it is your duty to like share it with your team and create it in such an environment, in such a culture that empowers everybody. Because like, what would the short-term shop be if you guys didn't make it? What do all these people be doing without you guys, right?
Something else for sure. And
you know what I'm saying? But it would be different. It would be less. It would be maybe like completely different. But at the same time, you guys, by having this huge vision and being so unapologetically, let's use unreasonable in like kind of chasing it, you created a gift for everybody that works with you, right? And just something that like you couldn't have done if you guys didn't do it. So if you can dream it, then you know what's his quote that his dad says, like, what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail?
So tying that in and kind of put a bow on this, I'm curious. No, this is good. Tying that in, talking about like vision, where are you guys going with short-term shop, and what are some of the goals that you guys have for that business, and what are you guys striving for right now? What are you excited about?
Man, I'm pretty happy with the way things are, and again, that's her lane. I definitely stay out of that as much as possible. I give my opinions when they're asked for, but we're pretty happy with the way things are going there. It's also a really weird market right now, so let's that's no secret. But we're just super grateful, man. And I'm giving more than I've ever given. We throw another book out there, Go Giver. That's definitely the way I live my life. And every dollar that goes out, $3 will come back, kind of thing. And But man, for me, again, it's been a spiritual situation where is the top of this ladder? What is at the top of it? Why am I killing myself every day? And I'll be honest, that completely changed. And I know you guys can relate when I had my kids, so the kids are really, it's 100% at this point. And they are the greatest thing. I don't know what took me so long. I've got all this gray hair now and I've got a 3-year-old. But man, making the world a better place for them is the priority. And I'm not going to say I've met all my real estate goals. Absolutely not. There's definitely way more hills to climb, and I would love to take down another apartment building if and when the time is right, aka when I can get a good deal. But yeah, sky's the limit. Space is the place. You guys know that.
I love it, man. Yeah, I love that. And the reason I like to ask folks like you about that is, outside looking in, like you guys have achieved so much, from the business success. And I always love to like get in the minds of those types of people to figure out how have priorities changed? How has the vision changed? All these things. And it's funny you brought that up because, the last 12 months, I've been doing a lot of that reevaluating about like, how high am I going? Like, where do I want to get to? Like, what is the point of all this? Right. Just had another hotel deal come across my desk that looks very nice. And I'm like, okay, well, do I want to spend the time to do this for the next 12 months? I'm wrapping up one. Do I want to dive back into another one? We got, some family stuff going on, good stuff, positive stuff, but you just reevaluate. And that's why I always start with people, especially new folks, of what is your ideal outcome? What do you want to get from this business? Why are you doing this? Because you don't need 200 properties. Maybe you just want a few extra little income on the side, have a vacation house that pays for itself, go spend more time with the family. Like, it's not a contest. You just got to do what's right for you and nobody else. And just bear that in mind.
Good stuff. 100%, and you're right. The vacation part doesn't get brought up enough, guys. We have a secret weapon. We have a secret weapon that nobody else has. Mobile home parks, storage units, strip malls, retail, office buildings. Nobody's going on vacation in any of that stuff. And we can go on vacation in our houses whenever we want. And I'll be honest, and I bet it was similar for you guys. I would love to hear your side of this. When I first started, I could never dream of going to one of my houses and actually enjoying myself. It was miserable. I was completely obsessed with every tiny little nut and bolt and nail and screw and hammer and light bulb and driving Avery nuts. And the kids were so little, and they weren't even around back then, and 10 years go by. 15 years goes by, and you've got a 30-year note, and all of a sudden, man, you got a little breathing room there. It's like, hey, this thing's half paid off. And all I did was like go to sleep and wake up one day and I can take my kids there, man. It's a secret weapon. It's so freaking cool. And to E's point, I have gotten so much more involved with my guests over the years. I remember when the management softwares first came out. For me, I think it was IGMS was my first experience. And I think they were kind of the first one, really. And at least that I was aware of. And when that thing came out, I was like, this is amazing. I'm never talking to anybody ever again, And then now years go by, and the bartender in me comes back out. I love showing these people a good time. I like getting the psychology of it. I like telling them, no, because you can stop them from having a bad time because they get in their own way, these guests. It's like, dude, wait a minute, hold on. We're not going to play that attitude in my house. If you're going to have that attitude, you picked the wrong house. So I'm going to flip that around for you right now because I've been doing this for a really freaking long time. And I'm going to tell you why that attitude is wrong and how we can fix it right now. I don't have a specific example, but you guys go through it all the time. And again, this morning, I got a message. I proposed to my now fiance in your house the other night. And that is why we do this. It's about making the world a better place. And in the early days for me, it was like just trying to find some freedom in my life. I didn't want to have to worry about the man, holding me down and telling me what to do, the whole rock and roll thing. But as time goes by, it really is about the universe. The universe is listening. And if you can provide these folks with a great place to make these memories, man, it's a very special thing.
I love that. Love that. Well, before we get into the last question,
That was great, Luke. I love that.
I want to first thank you for coming on here.
Inspired by you guys. Thank you.
Well, it's a mutual brotherly love. I'll tell you that. So thank you again for coming on here, man, and just sharing your journey with everybody and inspiring a lot of people. And the amount of people that you guys are helping through the different ventures that you guys are involved in is incredible. And super grateful to know you guys and continue to get to know you better and watch your journey. But before we get into the last question, where can folks learn more about you guys, Short-Term Shop, the books, all the good stuff that you guys have going on? Speaking at BPCon in a few weeks, super exciting for you guys for that. Where can folks get all the lowdown on you guys?
Yeah, you nailed it, man. theshorttermshop.com. And the YouTube channel, I'm pretty active on there. I have my own podcast, Short-Term Rental Management, where I just preach about, nuts and bolts of landlording. Is really, it's what it is. I'm not too active on socials, but the shop is, and the YouTube channel is probably the best place.
Perfect. So we'll get all those links down in the show notes for you guys. So the last question that we ask all of our guests is, what is your number one secret to success with short-term rentals?
Wake up earlier. Read more books, wake up earlier. But when it comes to the short terms themselves, don't overthink it. That would be my number one thing. People just go nuts. I get all these people, they come in and they're brand new and they say, oh, I got to get my owner res, my breezeway, my Turno, my resort clean, and this, that app and this app. I got to get them all hooked together. And I'm like, why? You don't even know what these websites do yet. Just chill, man, and then as you find a need for these things, or if you find it, because I'm going to tell you right now, you get into this, you get shot out of a cannon. It's wonderful. Do that. But you're going to end up deleting a bunch of those websites at some point. You don't need all that crap. But I don't even know if I answered your question. I love you guys. I'm a subscriber, have been for quite some time. I've always loved your banter and the wonderful things that you say. And Mike, I'm a fan. Just super grateful to actually finally make this happen. And keep doing what you're doing. You guys are wonderful.
Awesome. Likewise, brother. Yeah. We could rant off for a while. So maybe I'll come up to Orlando to see you when you guys are doing BPCon.
I would love that. And the bar will be open
for a Negroni. Yeah,
the bar will be open, and I tip big. So let's go.
Let's do this.
Love it. Well, thank you again, Luke, for listeners. Hope you guys get a lot of value out of this. Check out the show notes. Make sure you guys follow Luke and Avery and all the Short-Term Shop. Get the book from Bigger Pockets. Head out to BPCon. And then in February, come hang out with us in Nashville again. But that is it for this week, everybody. Have an amazing week, and we'll talk to you soon.
Hey, STR Nation, if you enjoyed this episode, please make sure to hit that subscribe button and leave us a review. And in the comments, let us know what topics you want us to cover on upcoming episodes, and we'll make sure to get that in the books for you. And if you really want to learn how to launch, automate, and scale your short-term rental business, if you want to go deeper, then check out our free masterclass at strsecrets.com.